Hello, and thank you for joining us today. A top goal for many companies is to incorporate AI and modern tech into their business strategies to reach financial gains. But how do they know if they're ready to make the leap to AI? I'm Ben Cole, Executive Editor at Information Week, and I'm joined today by Thomas Squeo, CTO of ThoughtWorks Americas, to discuss best practices that company leaders should consider even before implementing AI projects. Thanks so much for joining me today, Thomas.
Thank you for the opportunity. Ben, good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thomas, to get us started, can you talk a little bit about the state of digital and AI readiness report and some of the findings? What are leaders in digital and AI readiness doing to outperform those that might be falling behind in AI implementation?
Great question. So we just released our AI readiness report in the last few weeks, and this is relevant. Quite a good sample size for being able to get that information. But the thing that we observed in our analysis was really that the ones that were outperforming had a very pragmatic view of where they were on the continuum, and then in addition to that, they treated it as a business aligned activity or a transformation activity. It was not a technical project. Usually one of the things that we see that is an indicator of project health is when the business is actually viewing it as a significant opportunity and not just tech for tech's sake. So a big signal for us for risk in a program is when it's technology and it's not really got the visibility to the business outcome there. So really, if they think about the three dimensions that we see is strategy integration, continuous modernization. So it's not just a kind of a one and done project, and then looking at how it's going to scale from POC into a production environment.
Excellent. And Thomas, why is continuous modernization essential to ensure AI initiatives remain successful and deliver that ongoing value in the face of rapid change?
Well, I think that the notion that a project is done, kind of done and dusted. We're not building buildings here. We're not essentially having these things be kind of locked in amber when they're completed. And especially when you think about kind of AI readiness and AI implementation, it's going to be an ongoing enhancement. So I typically say, and I can't sure who to attribute it to, but today's product is tomorrow's feature. And knowing that journey is going to be on an ongoing basis, it's really this notion that everything that you're going to be working on should be considered to be evergreen in this regard. So the thing about it is that, you need to have good data in this regard. You need to have your data evolving over time. It needs to be available to the systems that need to consume it. It needs to be on scalable infrastructure. So as you kind of go through this journey, your initial infrastructure needs might not be the same as what they are in the future. But ultimately, this set of capabilities, without an ongoing modernization, the organization is going to hit roadblocks, because the thing is that how often have you set out for a destination and incurred no change in it, especially on a long journey. If you think about that notion that these capabilities for an organization have ongoing ability to evolve and continuously modernize and develop and deliver is essentially a competitive advantage. It gives the ability for resilience as well as also faster innovation, and essentially, I would argue, more sustained capture of return on investment from AI initiatives as well. If you're just locking it in amber after you release it, if it's not delivering business value, you're going to have something that's ultimately an unnecessary spend in that regard.
What does effective AI related ROI results look like? What are some ROI components that companies should look for as they monitor these AI investments?
Well, I'd love to give you one number, but it's not one number. It's a portfolio of numbers. So you're going to have your financial, operational, and kind of strategic returns from that perspective. When we develop technology projects, ThoughtWorks with our customers, we obviously look at certain metrics relative to what the performance of those are, but they need to be contextualized in business outcomes. So one of the things, our most successful engagements with our customers are where we understand the business outcomes that need to be driven, whether that be internal productivity, business process automation, customer experience. To make it more concrete, we work with a provider in the airline industry, and one of the things that they care about is how, like, you could discreetly say, is a new airline, is a new kind of platform, in this case a new platform of aircraft being brought into their work. That's material to that organization. That is something that not only the CFO sees, but also the CEO and the board see as well. And if we're able to trace ourselves to that value, or trace our work or AI related work to that value, that's something that's very much important. If you think about this, the key performance indicators should be a natural exhaust of the work that you're doing, as opposed to some kind of activity that's done on the side. So if you think about this as ultimately as a flywheel, early efficiencies, fund broader transformations, and then as you kind of go through that flywheel turns more, and that improves the models that you're using, and then ultimately how the systems are used and applied.
And Thomas, what role does culture play in AI project readiness? How should organizational leaders prepare workers for how their job will be influenced by AI?
Well, I've always believed that the culture of an organization is kind of the whether or not they're going to win in the market in many cases. It is the difference maker, if you will. Cultures that have good adaptability, psychological safety, not only kind of technical, but digital fluency. So is that digital fluency across all actors in the system, executive teams, management, people in the technology organization. So if it's actually in a way that it's been evangelized across the organization and well understood, common language around how things are actually being done, what are the things, what are the norms that and behaviors that are necessary for a team to be able to kind of understand what success looks like, and actually have the ability for people to ask questions, if there's a setback in a program, they shouldn't be afraid of being able to bring that to the fore. But essentially what it does is it's not just what AI does, it's also what it enables for an organization. If the organization is one that doesn't have a culture of experimentation or willingness to try new things, they might start to atrophy and not be able to take advantage of the things that are going to bring things forward. So we've heard a lot of news about, executives saying, hey, AI is going to, be a key, kind of gating factor on whether or not they're going to bring in new staff. And it's not so much that they're replacing staff, they're just saying, hey, is this a capability that we can bring to bear alongside our teams to be able to augment our staffs, and so on and so forth. I would argue that, we're able to go further downrange on problems that weren't necessarily within the scope previously. You could have teams be able to get much richer information about what they're actually working on and be able to incorporate that back in. But ultimately, at the end of the day, leaders in AI maturity ultimately have that adaptability, psychological safety in their teams, and so on and so forth. These are hallmarks of kind of, I'll call it tier one organization cultures. And it's usually, you see them also being very flat in their organization design. It's not very hierarchical. They're not like lots of levels and layers where you could start to see stratas of information exchange happening in that regard.
Thomas, we've talked before about how companies can leverage AI to accelerate the modernization of legacy mainframe systems. How can organizations incrementally modernize systems while minimizing disruptions?
Well, I think that if you think about mainframes or any kind of legacy system, typically it's going to be in the system of record or system of differentiation for a business. These are means that they're the most mission critical parts of the organization. So if you think about each of those systems, we look at incremental innovation or incremental modernization. You're going to look at what the grain size of the problem that you're actually going to be working on. If we think about modernizing legacy systems, specifically in the mainframe context, you could think of the applications that are running on that mainframe as their own portfolio, if you will. And if you think about this, there's an opportunity that you could bring tooling to the table. You have to bring the right relationships for how you're going to run those environments after they're modernized and so on. But the behaviors that the teams go through when they're managing a legacy system is usually one that's really around kind of the tyranny of the urgent. What do I need to do now? What do I need to be able to bring through to be able to deliver business value in an incremental way? Many legacy systems, I should say, have, their size, scale, and complexity ends up inhibiting the agility that a business can have as they move through things. So we use things like agentic automation, code intelligence, look at what the execution models are for how we'd actually approach those. But ultimately, what we want to be able to do is modernize those systems and get those customers into their new operating environments while essentially managing the integrations. Not every candidate is just hey, we're going to just rip and replace it off of an old system. But ultimately, you have to be able to have kind of the delicate dance of, what are the tools and technologies? What are the socio-technical techniques that you're going to be able to use and apply to be able to deliver an outcome for an enterprise? And then ultimately, what's the infrastructure it's going to run on at the end of the day? Each one of those is going to be taken as a larger program, if you will. But ultimately, what you could do is you could qualify that against the business value. Say there's 100 jobs on your mainframe or in your legacy environment, you could actually go and say, hey, you know what? These 3 are the most business impactful. Modernize those, integrate back, and then take that as an approach. But ultimately, this results in, reducing this disruption. It lowers the cost, increased cycle time. But most importantly, it gives the same degree of performance and the same degree of capability for the organization as they go through that journey. And then they can then take advantage of new architectural paradigms, new things that are out there in the market. All of the conversation we've just had about AI, now those legacy systems are unlocked so they can actually deliver that value as well.
That was great, Thomas. Thank you so much for your insight. And that was a lot of excellent information for our audience today. For more information on how AI is changing business strategies, please visit informationweek.com. I'm Ben Cole. Thank you for watching.
Bye-bye.